Hi, welcome to Mary's Stitching Corner. My name is Mary and this is my channel about cross stitch. So welcome. It's been a while again. I think this is the longest break that I've had since I started filming. But I had surgery in November and then we had a death in the family and then we were head on into the holidays, and this has been the first chance I've had to film since then. And I can give you a life update at the end, let you know everything that's been happening. So Happy New Year. I hope you are doing well and thank you for being here. If you're new, welcome. I hope you enjoy what you see and stick around and hit like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And also, if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you for always being there. I appreciate you more than you know. So today we're going to do a WIP parade. I think that's a good way to come back and show you all the things I was working on last year, and well, basically show you the things I'm bringing from last year into this year. And you'll also see some new starts. But I think I'll start with showing you my finishes since the last time I saw you, which I think was October. So I'll show you the finishes I've had since then, and I think there's 10 or 11. Then we'll go into WIPs. And then I made some notes because I know I'm going to forget. So I'll show you my finishes. We'll do the WIP parade. Talk about some plans. And then basically I'll give you a life update at the end. So for anybody that's new, I'll do a brief introduction. As I said, my name is Mary. I live in Utah in the Salt Lake Valley. I'm originally from Scotland, so you're gonna hear a mixed up accent, and so I lived in Scotland till I got married. That's what brought me over here. And it'll be 35 years this year that I've lived here. So let me think what else. I've been cross stitching since the 80s. I started in the 80s, but didn't fully get into it until the early 90s. That's when I moved over here. And at that point, I started cross stitching, and basically I haven't ever stopped. So, but it was, as a lot of us experience, we do one project at a time. So however long that project took is what it took, and then you would think, okay, time for the next one, and so on and so forth, until about 5 years ago when I discovered Flosstube and everything changed. So I think I have about 20 WIPs, which I never thought I'd get to, but thanks to my lovely enabling friends, I can see that number sneak up over the next year. But it's been really good fun. So I started Flosstube, I think about 4 years ago, in the hopes of making friends. I have a lot of health problems and I've been stuck at home a lot, and excuse me, my throat was just fine until I started talking. But it's kind of lonely, and I started Flosstube in the hopes of making new friends, and I did, and I am so grateful for those friends. They've made such a difference in my life. And so I live here with my husband and my 2 daughters and my dog, Maggie, who's laying beside me. You probably won't see her, but you will hear her for sure because she snores very loudly. I have a stepson, Nick. He lives about 5 hours away, and but we see him regularly throughout the year. Katrina and Sarah are my daughters, and they live at home with us. Katrina has a lot of health issues. And Sarah, it looks like she will be moving to a new place in about a month or two. So that's exciting for her. So that's my basic story. So I think we'll jump right into showing you everything. So I'm not very good at keeping track of everything I've been doing. I'm doing better at that as time has gone on, but this year I've started keeping track of how many stitches I do in a day, which I'm really interested to find that out because I really have no idea. Being home a lot, I do stitch a lot, but I have no idea how many stitches that is. So next year I should have a better idea on that. But last year I had 46 new starts and I had 45 finishes. So that was pretty good. What I'm going to show you is not in any kind of order. So I'll just tell you what I know and we'll take it from there. So we'll start with the finishes. These are finishes since October. So this one is Thankful Tiny Town by Primrose Cottage. And I stitched this on 16 count vintage country mocha. This was the first project I did after my surgery and I was feeling pretty rotten, so I didn't enjoy it very much, but I have another Tiny Town ready to go and I'll probably enjoy that one a lot more because I just wasn't feeling all that great while I stitched this, but it's cute. And I used mostly the called for floss, the DMC alternatives, except I think I did change like this color here. No, here. The color that they chose just didn't stand out enough on my fabric, and so I changed that one. But everything else is the called for DMC. I think this is the third Tiny Town that I've done, none of which are fully finished yet. And if you're new, you will discover that I stitch a lot, but I don't fully finish a lot, which makes me sad every time I look at the stack of things waiting to be finished. So where shall I put these? This one I finished this morning. So I'm stitching this with Karen, the Stitching Owl. And I know there's one other person stitching along with us, but I can't remember her name and I apologize for that. So this is Lotus Lake Stitching Sheet Calendar. Here we go. So I'm stitching these individually. So I started with January and we'll hopefully do one a month. So if you want to see somebody that's stitching it, stitching them all together, check out Felicia at Mouse Potato Designs. So she's stitching this as one piece. And if you've seen her work before, you know that she does wonderful things with French knots, and you should check her out on Instagram, and she has a Flosstube also. So this was my finish today. This stitched up very quickly. And I used the called for DMC, except for this was supposed to be a medium blue that went into a pale grayish blue, but it didn't show up too much on my fabric, so I just changed it to a darker blue. And another thing I did is I do not like stitching white. I can never get my stitches to look nice. So I don't mind if I'm doing a project where I'm using one strand, but if I'm using two strands, as I did on this, I can never get the stitches to look nice. So what I did is Laura at Stitching by the Shore in a couple of projects used DMC Floss instead of the regular DMC, and that gives you about 1.5 times the thickness of a strand of regular DMC. And I decided to try that, and so everything is stitched with 2 strands except for the white, and this is stitched with 1 strand of Floss, and I love it because you can't tell the difference between the 2 strands of regular DMC and the 1 strand of Floss, but my stitches lay so much nicer. So that's what I will be doing going forward, I think. So this, I think this is 32 count, just a bluish gray fabric that I've had for many years. It's I think it's a Jobelin, which, you know, normally if I'm going for an even weave, I'll go for Lugana, but I actually really enjoyed this. I like the denseness of this. So I may try using Jobelin a bit more in the future. Anyway, this will be turned into a cushion or a pillow at some point. What I would like to do is finish the stitching in the month and fully finish it in the month. We'll see if that happens, but that would be the goal. So it's cute. So the 1st of February, I'll start the next one. Oh, and here's the Floss. So this is Blanc, and it comes in a big loop, and Laura had mentioned on her video that it can be pretty messy to try and get this ready to stitch with. So I did look for some YouTube videos on the best way to unravel this and get it ready for stitching, and that helped a lot. So if you struggle like me with 2-strand white stitching, then this could be a good alternative. So another thing I finished is Doreen Jones' Christmas Characters, which is a set of 6 Christmas ornaments, and this was one of those. I think it's adorable. There's a lot of back stitching, but yeah, I really liked it. I really enjoyed stitching this. So this is stitched on, it's either 14 or 16 count light blue Aida using the code for DMC. And I plan on doing more of those. This is Winter Quaker by Primrose Cottage. And this is the 3rd of their Quakers that I've done, and I really enjoyed it. And this is 18 count white Aida. And the floss that I used is I can't remember. If you want to know, let me know and I'll look it up for you. It was goodness. Let's see. See if I wrote it down. No, just ask me if you want to know. It's quite highly variegated and I loved it. I love stitching with it. So I did the Valentine one, I did the autumn one, and now I've done the winter one, and I plan on doing more. This one I chose Melanie at Uplift Stitches, did a stitch along during December, 12 Days of Snow Friends, where she started 12 projects with snowmen on them. And this was the one that I chose to do, to join in with that. This is Snowmen in Love by My Lovely Embroidery. And she's on Etsy, and I have quite a few of her charts, and I love them. So this was really fun. This was 32 count basalt splash. And that was quite enjoyable. There are some blends in here and some back stitching, but it wasn't too bad. This one I stitched along with Karen, the Stitching Owl, Laura, Stitching by the Shore. I think that may have been it. If I've forgotten you, I apologize. But this is Skating Santa by Love Poppet. This is the first of her charts that I've used, and it's adorable. I really enjoyed it. So this is 18 count Smoky Blue by Fabric Flare. And that was really fun. I pretty much spent all of December stitching Christmas or winter things, other than fulfilling some challenges that I was doing. That's all that I stitched during that time. This is another one I was stitching with Laura, Karen, Melanie, and I think that's it. So this is Autumn Drizzle by Max Pigeon Designs. This is from his book, Cross Stitch in the Forest. And if you've seen my videos before, you know that I love his designs. I've stitched quite a few from there, and I have many more that I want to do. He has another book coming out, I think towards the end of the year. So I'd like to get as much stitched from that book as possible before that one comes out. So this one was actually a bit of a challenge because there's a lot of fractional stitches in here. And because I was stitching on Ada, there's parts of it that I don't think pop as much as it would have if I had stitched on an even weave. So next time I'll check his charts to make sure if there's fractional stitches in there, then I'll use an even weave. But I still love how this looks. I love the colors. Autumn stitching is one of my favorite stitching to do. I just love the colors of autumn. So this is 18 count Ada using the code for DMC. This one I was stitching along with Laura. This is by My Lovely Embroidery again, and I did modify this a little bit. So this is Crow and Pumpkin. And there was a band along the bottom here that I chose to omit. And I really like how this turned out. This is 18 count Smoky White. And I used the code for DMC. I also love Halloween stitching. I think autumn and Halloween are my favorite. This is another My Lovely embroidery. It's called Frog on Pumpkin. And I love this one. That was a challenge to stitch on black, but I absolutely love how the colors pop on here. And these are all quite small. I think they're all less than 100 by 100, so they stitch up relatively quickly, but there's a lot of color changes too, which can slow you down some, but yeah, I really like how that one turned out. This next one, this was a major challenge for me. I didn't care for the fabric that I chose. I think that was the biggest issue. But I got it done and I like how it looks. So this is Cabin in the Woods by Flosstubers. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with this chart. It was just the fabric I chose, the way my stitches looked on it. I just wasn't happy with it. But now that it's done, I'm glad that it's done. And I think it looks really good. I love the different shades of green that she chose. I was stitching this one with Karen, the Stitching Owl. So this is 18 count. I don't remember the color, but it's by Picture This Plus. And my last finish is one that was going for a long time, so I'm very happy it's done. This is by Jardin Privé, and it's Lady Halloween. So there was no reason for this to take as long as it did, but for some reason I just didn't pull it out too often. I think it was probably in my rotation for about 2 years, I'm guessing. But I really like it. So it's mostly done in 310, and then I just added in some pops of color. This is Lavender, 18 count Lavender by Fabric Flair. So yeah, I'm very happy it's done. And again, if you're new, you'll see Jardin Privé quite frequently on here because I always have one of their charts on the go. I really like their stuff. Okay, so that is all of my finishes. And now we can get into the WIPs. Again, no particular order. I can look and see when I started them. So this one I started with Laura. And we started it in September. And this is Pansy Patch Quilts and Stitchery. And this is Blackbird Sampler. So Laura showed this on her channel as something that she was going to stitch, and I fell in love with it. But had a lot of problems with this one. So And the main problem is my inability to count properly. So the first thing I did, if I can get this ready, the first thing I did was start this in the wrong direction on my fabric. Thankfully, it worked out and I didn't have to unpick everything. The next problem is, because I had stitched it in the wrong direction, I decided I needed to come down and make sure I had enough room. So I came along here and down here, so I saw that I had plenty of room and I was going to be okay. So then I thought, well, why not just finish the border? So I started coming along here. Once I got to here, I realized I had miscounted here. So now I have to go all the way back and unpick that. So yeah, I've had a lot of bad luck with this one. But it looks really good. And I'm sorry, I cannot remember the name of this fabric. It is by Those Missing Stitches. It's a 20 count. I will list the fabrics along with the projects in the description box. And I'm stitching it with one strand over one using Weeks Dye Works Onyx. So hopefully when I get this fixed, I can start enjoying it again. And Laura and I have started quite a few of either Pansy Patch or Blueberry Ridge designs. They're a mother and daughter design. You know, they're not necessarily a team, but they're mother and daughter designers, and we really enjoy their designs. So this next one is by Blueberry Ridge Designs, and it's from their Sampler Holidays series, and it's called Halloween. This is another one that Laura and I started together. And let me see when I started. So I think we started this one, maybe not. We also started this one in September, but I'm a lot farther along on this one, and I haven't had the same issues. So this is where I am with this, and this was called for, I think this was called for my WIP Go, either last month or, yeah, it was, okay, it was called for this month, but I actually cheated a bit and started it last month. So I just did 1,500 stitches in here. And because there's a row of houses along here, I didn't want to mess up at all coming down here. So I brought the border down and then started working up so that I hopefully will be able to match everything up. This is another 20 count from Those Missing Stitches, and I'm using the same floss as the Blackbird one, which is Weeks Dye Works Onyx 1/1. Next one I'm doing is, this is kind of funny. I chose this one because I saw it hanging in my LNS, and it reminded me of Scotland. So I wouldn't have bought it just looking at the cover, but seeing it hung in the store, it just looked really, really nice. So this is a cricket collection, and this is Rest and Be Thankful. So there's a place in Scotland called Rest and Be Thankful that we would stop off at every time we would drive up into the Highlands. It has a gorgeous view. So just when I started this, a little bit after I started it, I actually decided to read what it said inside the chart. And so it says that Rest and Be Thankful is an inscription carved into an old stone seat found in the Scottish Highland, which inspired one of Wordsworth's poems. So I had no idea that that was the case, but it did remind me of home, and that was the reason I got it. So this is one of the few things I'm stitching on linen, and I'm actually not struggling too much with this one, thankfully. This is To Die For Fabrics, 36 count linen in the color wheat. And this is what I've done so far. Looks like it's kind of blending in here, but it shows up much better in person. And this was another of my WIP. Oh, this is my WIP Go Call for last month. So I got 1,500 stitches in there. And I chose it to be the focus piece for the WIP Warriors Challenge. They have a monthly challenge where you choose a focus piece. So I got another, I think it was 700, just over 700 stitches over the weekend. So I've been enjoying that one. I'm afraid these are going to come tumbling down. All right, the next one is find a picture. Here we go. This is one I was stitching with Laura, Karen D, Amy of Renewing Stitches. I think that's it. So I know that Karen and Karen D have finished. Laura is very close to the same progress as I have. But this is Doreen Jones, Butterflies in Bloom, something like that. This is not very big, but it's full coverage, and so it's taken quite a while to do. And we started this in March, so it's been going for quite a while. I would like to get this finished this year. I would say that I'm about 47% right now. And I absolutely love the colors in here. This really is such an enjoyable thing to stitch, but I know Karen says that it went really fast for her, but for me it seems to be, it just feels like it's taking a long time. And but I love it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And she has Doreen Jones has two other butterflies in this series, which I will probably do at some point. But I wouldn't start until I was finished with this. So hopefully I can get this done this year. And that's 18 count Silver Mist, I think. I'm using the code for DMC, and there's no back stitching in this one, which is very nice. And speaking of back stitching, I struggled with this one. I started this one last December, and it's Christmas Reindeer. And the amount of color changes and blended threads, this is such a detailed piece, and you can see that it is. It's lovely, but I finished the stitching in this. I need to do the back stitching, but there is so much back stitching, and I usually don't leave the back stitching till the end, but I have 2 projects that I did that with, and I won't do that again. But this is where she is. She's finished. The stitching is finished. It's going to be a while to get all the back stitching done. So this is on 18 count Smoky Blue by Fabric Flare. This is one of my favorite fabrics to use for winter projects because the white pops on this one. So she's very cute. I got the back stitching done on one eye. If you can see, let's see, this one has the back stitching done. You can see that it really helps it pop. So this is another one I will be glad when it's done, because it was very challenging. This is one by Little Dove Designs that I chose. I've told this story before, but I chose it because it reminded me of my Aunt Jean. I was very close to my Aunt Jean. I lost my mother when I was quite young, so my Aunt Jean became a substitute mother. And this is called Meant to Be, but it reminds me of a saying that my aunt used to say, which was, "What's for you won't go by you." And I actually want to, it says, let me put my glasses on. So it says right here, what is meant to be will always find a way. And so I would like to put in there, what's for you won't go by you. And then put my aunt's initials here somewhere. So I haven't done a lot on it. But it's very pretty. And I really like Little Dove Designs. I've done a few of theirs and we'll have quite a few more on my wish list. This is 20 count Lugana. I think it's platinum. And it's very interesting. It's the first time I've stitched on 20 count Lugana. And it's quite thick. And sometimes your stitches want to slide underneath, so you have to be careful. But I think it looks quite nice. And this one I started in July. So I don't think I'll get it done by this July. But yeah, I love it, and I love the fact that it reminds me of somebody so special. This is another one that I started with Laura by Blueberry Ridge Designs. It's called Christmas Sampler. See if I have a picture of it. Yes. So this will be what it looks like when it's done, but I'm nowhere near done. So I started in the top left-hand corner. I'm just working my way across and down. Sorry for all the wrinkles. So yeah, maybe I'm a quarter of the way through. This is being stitched on 20 count Ada, and I am using Apple Fritter by Classic Colorworks. I love that floss. It's got quite a nice variegation in it. And we started this in July, for Christmas in July. Now, I'm somebody that will work on any holiday or season throughout the year. It doesn't bother me. So this will be pulled out when I feel like it, or pulled out for challenges or whatever. So it will, I don't know if it will be done by Christmas. It would be nice, but it will continue to get worked on. So my dog is right here, which is why I can't just set everything down beside me, because you can't move them. Okay, this one I'm doing with Laura, Karen, and Karen D. I think that's all. And Karen D have both finished theirs. And Laura's the one that found this one and came up with the hashtag, I never thought I'd stitch a goose. And this is Strawberry Goose by Fine Frog Stitching. And this is what it will look like when it is done. And I think I'm over 50% done. So this is where I am. So this is 18 count Magical Clouds by Fabric Flare. I'm using code for DMC. So I don't have much farther to come along here, but then I have to bring the greenery up and then finish the archway up here. And I know I've messed up over here, so I'm gonna have to finagle things a bit to make it all match up. But I'm hoping this will be done in the next few months. Very cute. This is one I started in, in the Strawberry Goose, we started in June. And this one I started in May. This is Plum Street Samplers, Grace on Thee. And this house is taking quite a while, so it's not one I've been pulling out very often because it's not very big and it should be done by now, but it's only 128 by 120. So I know I'm not an American, but I love stitching on patriotic things, and my husband's very patriotic, and so I enjoy stitching them, and this country has been very good to me, so I've enjoyed living here. So this I would like to get done this year. It is 18 count Bridesmaid by Fabric Flare. And I'm using the code for Weeks Dye Works and Classic Color Works. And this one I started with Laura, Karen D, Karen, and Melanie. And I will list all their Flosstube names down below. And we started this in, was it October? Yes, October. So we decided we were going to do a stitch along featuring Yasmin's Made with Love, a chart by Yasmin. And Laura and I chose the same one. Karen D and Melanie chose the same one, and Karen chose something else. So it was just fun for everybody to be stitching on completely different designs. So this is Gothic Bat. And I only have a very, very small start on this, but I love it. So this is stitched on 18 count Brave Boromer by Those Missing Stitches. And I'm using 2 strands of DMC 310. And that's all I have done so far, but it's looking fantastic. It's interesting, I was stitching this and this little bat appeared. So I think there's going to be more surprises as I'm stitching this one, but I think it looks great. Looking forward to getting more stitching done on this. I don't think it will be done this year, but that's okay. This is another one I started last Christmas and left all the back stitching to the end. This is Luca S, and it's called Little House in the Forest, and it comes with this hoop to finish it in. So I got all the stitching done in it. This is a 16 count Ada, and I quite liked their Ada. It was quite soft. A lot of times when you stitch from a kit, the Ada is super stiff, and this was actually quite nice. I used all the kit contents. So they use their own floss, and on some of the newer kits, there's a QR code which will put it into Pattern Keeper for you. But you have to enter the floss, and to do that you can find a chart online which does the conversion from Luca S to DMC. So you can put in the DMC numbers and then just make sure you follow the symbol and not the number when you're stitching. But other than that, I went into Pattern Keeper very nicely. So I just started the back stitching, but this is it. And I think it's very cute. There were a lot of color changes. Actually, it's quite a small project. I think it's less than 100 by 100 stitches, but it took quite a long time because it's very detailed. But I think it looks really nice, but there's a lot of back stitching to do. So I keep having to relearn that lesson. Don't leave the back stitching till the end. But I think it's going to look really lovely when it's done. And I really enjoyed stitching a look at S-Stitch. I was looking online at some of their others, and I may do another one down the road. So speaking of kits, I always like to have a dimensions kit on the go. And so I started this one probably in October, but I haven't gotten much done on it. But and I have a few more kits that I want to do next. So this is Balloon Glow Dimensions Gold. And my last dimensions one, I think I finished in March, so it's been a little while since I stitched one. So as I said, it's a very small start. I'm using all the kit supplies, and this is all I have done. So I started in the middle. This balloon is in the middle, and I'm working my way down kind of in a couple of columns, and then I may go up as well. I'm not sure, but I'll get to a point where I stitch all the way across, and then I'll just work my way up and down in columns. That's the way I usually do these. So I think this is a 18 count Ada. So it will take a while. It'll probably take me 18 months to 2 years to get this one done. It takes a while even when you're stitching it as a monogamous project, but when you are mixing it in with 19 other WIPs, then yeah, it takes a long time. So we'll see how it goes. This one was a new start. This is my New Year, New Start this year. And I started it with Laura. We've been stitching a few of these, and we'll stitch all 4 of them. But this is Peace on Earth by Lila Studio, and it's a winter Quaker sampler. Now I finished Spring Quaker, Summer Quaker, and now I'll do Winter Quaker, and when this one is done, I'll start Autumn Quaker. Laura finished Spring Quaker. She's getting close to being done with Summer Quaker, and now she's working on this. So we started this on New Year's Day. With the holidays, my routine was all messed up. My stepson was up visiting. Sarah's birthday is New Year's Day, so we were just busy, and I didn't get much done. But so far, this is what I've done. I think it's around 350 stitches. So right now it kind of looks more autumn than winter, but I'm looking forward to stitching this. I've enjoyed all of them very, very much. So I wanted to do this on blue, but there's numerous blues in this project that we're going to blend in with the choices that I had. So I ended up going with Vintage Country Mocha. This is 18 count, and I'm stitching it 1/1 with the code for DMC. So I'm excited to get more of this done. This one I started in August. And this is Little Dove Designs, Heart of Autumn. I've already done Heart of Summer, and I plan on doing Spring and Winter. I have all of the charts ready to go, but I want to finish this before I start another. I'm not sure what fabric this is. I think it's a fiber, oh, it's Fiber on a Whim Cafe au Lait. I had so many projects put aside to start for fall and Halloween, and most of them are still sitting there waiting to be started. So this is one that I did manage to start, but it doesn't have a lot done on it. Get this situated. So this is where I am. I'm trying to get most of the white done, and there's a lot of white, and going forward I will use Floss on this rather than having to do the 2 strands of white. But I think it's looking really nice. I love the colors. So I'd like to think this will be done by fall, because again, they're not very big. Just depends how many projects I'm talked into starting. So this next one was my New Year, New Start last year. Black Roses by Owl Forest Embroidery. And I just reached the 50% point on this one. I was thrilled. And that, in a large part, is thanks to Andrew, the runner stitcher, who had his WIP into shape challenge, which ran from May through November or October. I can't remember, but there was quite a few months of stitching on this, and that made such a difference in the amount of stitching I got done on this. So I was absolutely thrilled. And this is what 50% looks like. So let me pull these threads. This is being stitched on 18 count antique white, which I think was what I stitched Black Vintage Sampler on the year before. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with this. This is quite intense. There's a lot of detail in here, but I love it. I think it looks amazing. So I go row by row, as it's too easy to mess up. And I am somebody that messes up almost every project in some way, but going row by row is a way that I can try and minimize the chances of that happening. I'm not somebody that can do, what's it called? Is it cross-country stitching? I mess up. It doesn't matter what fabric I'm working on. I tend to mess up when I do that. So I tend to be quite controlled in the way that I stitch. I either work in columns, varying a little bit from those columns, or rows, and that just helps me a lot. This has fallen by the wayside a bit since the Andrew's challenge was finished, but I need to find a way to work it in more regularly. I'd like to finish this year. Whether or not I'll be able to, I don't know. Now, I don't think it's quite as dense when you come farther down. When you get done with the building, I think it might be a bit easier. And then Laura and I are not stitching that bottom row of roses right here, because it seems like a natural end is right here. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'd like to be disciplined enough to get a few hundred stitches into it every week, but I don't know. This is one Laura and I started on the first day of winter. I've got a measly start on this one. I had a real problem trying to decide on a fabric. I wanted to do blue because I like blue for winter, but again, I couldn't find a floss that would work the way I wanted it to. So I'm actually using the called for floss on a different fabric. So this is Winter by Sampler Seasons. Okay, this is Sampler Seasons Winter by Blueberry Ridge Designs. And I finished autumn. Maybe in July. And Laura and I are planning on starting spring and summer. Spring and summer on the first day of spring and then the first day of summer. And this is all that I have done. So not very much. So I chose smoky white. And I'm using the called for floss. But it looks more gray on this fabric than it does here. It looks more of a purpley, grayish purple. But on mine, it's just looking more gray. And so this is Weeks Dye Works, and it's Shepherd's Blue. So it is kind of a purplish. A gray with purplish undertones, I would say. But here, it's looking very much just gray. But that's okay once I start. I mean, right now it looks kind of bland. But I think once I start filling everything in, it will look nice. So obviously I need to get more work done on this one. This was my birthday start last year. And I just barely finished page 1 of 6, I think. This is the Jardin Privé that I've got in my rotation right now. And these colors are just lovely. So this is Medallion Sampler is what I call it, by Jardin Privé. So my birthday is in May. I started this on my birthday. It's not going to be done by this birthday, but doesn't that look lovely? The colors are just so pretty. And this is 20 count white Ada, because I wanted there to be no distractions from the colors. Plus this is quite a busy pattern, so just the plain white I think works really well. So this here was page 1. So now I'm coming down to page 2. As much as I love it, it's just one of those ones that I don't want to pull out, and I don't know why. So that's where being part of challenge groups really helps, because it will say, okay, you need to find this, or whatever, it challenges you to fit a certain theme, and sometimes that's the only one that will fit, and so I pull it out when I wouldn't normally. So the challenge groups I'm part of are WIP Warriors and Laura's I Spy and WIP Go. I knew I was forgetting something. I do WIP Go also. So we'll talk about that a little bit farther along. Okay, this is Shack on the Shore by Flosstubers, and this is the one that did the cabin in the woods that I struggled with. This one I'm not struggling with. I like this fabric a lot better. So started this with Laura, Karen. I don't know if Karen D did this or not. So I don't know that any of us are done. So I'm using Magical Fairy Dust by Fabric Player 18 count. Using the code for DMC. And this is where I am. This is showing much bluer. I mean, it is a strong blue, but it's showing much stronger on the video than it is. So this is one of my WIP Go numbers for this month, so it'll get 1,500 stitches. And I think Karen is kind of making this a focus to try and get this done quickly. So if you want to see her progress, you can watch her video. And my last WIP is Thanksgiving, Sampler Holidays Thanksgiving by Blueberry Ridge. And I started this with Laura. And I think it was in November. Yes, November 1st we started this, and I don't have a lot done. And this one, I'm doing something, I'm using a highly variegated floss for this one. And so far I like it. I mean, it's very different, but if you look at, the designer chose silks, and those are highly variegated, which is what prompted me to try that with this one. So Threadworks is the company I went with, and that's the company I went with the blue for Winter Quaker. And this is 10351, and you can see it's highly variegated. So it's been kind of fun and interesting to use, and I quite like it. I don't think I would do it on every project, but it's been fun to do it on this. And I'm not lining anything up, I'm just using it as I pull it off the skein, and so far I'm enjoying it. So this is 20 count sand, I think. But yeah, I really love this border. I had stitched the border for a little while before I realized they were leaves, tiny leaves. So I think it looks really nice. So that's it. Those are my WIPs. And most of them, apart from the two winter, like the Little House in the Forest and the Reindeer, which were started in December last year, all of these came from 2025. So I think that was pretty good. I didn't bring anything farther back than that. So for plans, I have some planned starts. So the first one that I think we will do, I don't know everybody that's joining in on this, but I know there's quite a few. I know that Laura, Karen D are definitely going to do it, and I'm not sure who else, but I know there's more. And this is Cottage Garden Samplings, and this is A Year in the Woods, A Year in the Woods 2, number 7, and it's the Northern Cardinal. And I think we'll be stitching this in the next month or two. Isn't that absolutely stunning? So I got my floss. So it's mostly DMC with 2 fancy flosses. And that's from Classic Colorworks, Bing Cherry and Ladybug. Everything else is DMC. So I just need to choose the fabric, and when we pick a start date, I will be starting this. And I'm very much looking forward to that. Another one I will be starting is, I'll be starting this in February with Laura and with my friend from Instagram, Patty, is going to join us with this one. And this is Pansy Patch Quilts and Stitchery, and this is Pink Peacock Sampler. So this will start, I think we said maybe Valentine's Day, I can't remember. But I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully I won't mess this one up as much as the Blackbird. And then in July, there's a few of us going to start Christmas Town by Flossabilities. I know Laura's starting. I don't know who else. I think Karen D. Anyway, this will be our Christmas in July start. Now, this is the same as the Halloween Town that they did. They just changed the colors and made it Christmassy. So I'm excited about this, and I really like the Halloween Town one. I'll probably do that at some point. So those are planned starts. Now Laura was doing her. Laura, have you done your WIP parade yet? Don't think so. She was going through some possible starts for the year, and I had a few of them, so we'll probably start those together at some point throughout the year. Most of those ones are smaller, which is good because we've been starting a lot of bigger ones. And Karen is talking about, when she finishes Autumn Drizzle, starting another Max Pigeon, which I will join in on. And I have quite a few small charts that I want to work through this year. So I do a morning stitch. So when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is stitch on my morning stitch, which is usually something less than 100 by 100. And I want to continue to do that. But what I might do this year is put it into a picker wheel. And when I'm finished one small, I'll just hit the picker wheel button and see which one it chooses for me. So I could end up with Christmas in February and Valentine's in October, and that's just fine. So I'm going to sort those out and decide which ones I'm going to put into that morning rotation. I do WIP Go. This is my 3rd year of WIP Go, and it helps me a lot. It helps me pull out stuff that I don't love to stitch on. Because, you know, even though we love the charts, sometimes like with Cabin in the Woods. I love the chart, I love the design. I just didn't like the fabric I chose, and so it made it a chore to pull out. But things like WIP Go help me do that. So for me, it really works. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but for me, it works. So I'll continue to do 1,500 stitches on each number that's called. And I tend to put more of my bigger projects on there. So, because I work through my smaller ones quite quickly. Then, what else? As I mentioned, I'm in WIP Warriors. I do their challenges. It's different this year. They've changed some things. I'm not sure I like everything, but we'll see how the month goes on, or the months go on, and probably there'll be things I like less and things I like more, and it will balance out. But again, it's a good way to get me focused and get some work in on all of my projects. And then I do Laura's I Spy, which does the same thing. She does that once a month. She'll pick 10 prompts, and it helps you choose projects to work on. And right now I'm doing Bringo from the Magazine Monthly Cross Stitch Facebook page. And she draws a number every night, and there's 25 prompts, and so you can pick a project that correlates with that prompt, and you do a minimum of 100 stitches on that. So I've been doing that since January 1st, and I've been enjoying that. And I would like to, this doesn't mean it's going to happen, focus on a lot of the stuff I already have. Again, I have lovely enabling friends, which I know will pull me away from there. And I'm not saying I'm going to stitch from my stash, because I'm not saying that at all. But I do tend to gravitate towards the new and neglect the things that I've already bought. So I would like to work through some of those this year. But other than that, that's all my plans, really. I just plan on enjoying stitching and making friends and just enjoying this community. So yeah, that's probably it. Let me just check my notes to be sure. That's it for my stitching. I probably will now go into a life update. So if you're here just for the stitching, thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the video, and I hope that you are doing well and that you will stop by next time. Another one of my plans is to try and post more consistently. Last year was challenging. Obviously, we don't know what's ahead of us, but that's something I would like to do, is just at least post a video once a month. So fingers crossed for that. So life, the latter part of last year was difficult. If you've been here before, then you know I've struggled with AFib, atrial fibrillation, for a long time, for 12 or 13 years. And I also suffer with vestibular migraine for 13 or 14 years. And both of those have progressed over the years. And the AFib was getting to the point where I was having multiple episodes a week. Some of them are lasting 24 or 26 hours. And I finally decided to do the recommended treatment, which is a cardiac ablation, which is very scary. I lost my mother during a heart operation. And I know some of my fear came from that. But I also know a lot of time has passed and a lot of progress has been made. And she had a completely different problem than I did. She had a much more serious issue than I did. And so I finally just decided, okay, let's just try this and see what happens. So mid-November, I had the procedure, and as far as the heart goes, it's been going good. This is the longest I've gone without having AFib, so we're almost at the 7-week mark. So for years, I haven't gone this long without an episode. I had my follow-up with the cardiologist a couple of weeks ago, and he said the procedure went great. They go in and they zap 4 parts of your heart where the AFib tends to come from. And he said that went perfectly, but it's not a cure. It's their first line in treatment. So obviously, best case scenario is I would never have AFib again. That's not very likely. Next best scenario would be it will limit the amount of episodes I have. And that's what we're hoping and praying for. So the recovery was challenging, but not in the way I expected. Thankfully, I had read other people's experiences before I had the procedure, because otherwise I would have been freaking out. But for whatever reason, it can cause migraines to get worse. It can cause new migraines. It can also cause a lot of ocular migraines. So with my vestibular migraine, I don't get the pain. I get horrible pressure right across here. Horrible pressure and dizziness. So it's now chronic, so I am dizzy to one degree or another all the time. But after this surgery, oh my gosh, the dizziness was so intense all the time, and whenever I would get up, my legs felt like jelly. They were just so wobbly. And I had a few ocular migraines, and I had had 1 or 2 throughout my life, so I knew what it was, but that was the hardest part of the recovery. And also, you know, you have wounds where they put whatever they put in through your arteries, and I had to be very careful with that. But the worst was the dizziness, and I'm still not back to where I was, but it's much better than it was. I think I'm slightly above just my normal dizziness now. So I will still usually have a migraine once a day that's quite intense, but it's not all day, and it's not the 3 times a day, and so it is improving. But that was very hard. But other than that, it went well. And as I said, we just keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. And then 3 days after my surgery, sorry. We lost we lost my mother-in-law, and it was expected. She was 94. She had dementia. She had cancer, and she was living in a nursing home. And but it was still hard. So coming at that time, it was just intense. There was a lot of stuff going on, and it was hard, but it was a blessing, because she was at the point where she was on morphine all the time and sleeping all the time, and she wouldn't eat or drink, or so it was a blessing for her. But hard. It's always hard for people left behind. So, and so we had my surgery. 3 days later she passed, and a week and a half later the funeral, and then it was the holidays, and it's just been crazy. So but yeah, we're good. We're doing good now, and we had a nice Christmas. Unfortunately, Nick, my stepson, was supposed to come up for Christmas, but he got the flu and couldn't come up. And then Sarah got sick. Then my husband got sick. And they both just had head colds, but so they weren't feeling all that great through the holidays, but it was still nice. And then Nick came up for New Year, and we celebrated his Christmas, and then we celebrated Sarah's birthday. And I'm glad now to be back in a normal routine, and for things to be more mellow. And Katrina started a new job yesterday. Fingers are crossed, and we're praying that this will be, that her body will hold up and that she can manage this job, because her health was really, really bad last year. So she has POTS, which is, let me think. Oh my gosh, my brain has just gone lit. This is crazy, because we talk about it and deal with it all the time. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So one of the ways they can tell you have POTS is if when you go from sitting to standing, your heart rate jumps up at least a minimum of 30 beats per minute. The blood falls, and you get dizzy and weak and all this stuff. But it also causes a lot of other issues. And she has neuropathic POTS, which means her POTS was caused by nerve damage. We don't know what caused the nerve damage. So she has a lot of issues with the nerves in her neck and her back, and it's been really hard. She has a great attitude about it, but it's hard. There's times it's really, really hard for her. But she started a new job. We are hoping she's full-time for 2 weeks while she's training, and then she'll go part-time, and we're hoping that that's going to be manageable for her. So, and then Sarah told us that she's found an apartment, and she's probably going to be moving out. And this is something she's really excited about. All of her furniture and everything has been in storage for the last year and a half, and so she will be very happy to have her own place. So, and yeah, that's it. That's pretty much all that's been happening. And so I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you had, if you celebrated Christmas, I hope it was wonderful for you. I hope that this new year will be great for you, and that you'll have lots of stitching time. And thank you for being here and sharing this wonderful hobby with me. So take care, and I hope to see you in a month. Bye for now.